In April of 1994, as the cherry blossoms, or sakura, bloomed vibrantly across Japan, filling the air with a delicate fragrance and the promise of spring, a tragedy unfolded in the heart of Tokyo. In the tranquil oasis of Inokashira Park, a place known for its picturesque ponds, ancient temples, and bustling streets, a horrific discovery was made, sending shockwaves throughout the nation. Inside a trash bin, nestled in the shadow of the blossoming cherry trees, lay the dismembered remains of a body. This was not simply a death. It was a message, delivered with a chilling, silent brutality. Imagine a sunny day, the gentle chirping of birds, the intoxicating scent of fresh foliage, and then the gruesome find. The first to stumble upon the remains, as often happens in such cases, were completely ordinary individuals. Park maintenance workers, clearing debris, came across a suspicious bag. Their hearts must have skipped a beat as they realized what lay within. A call to the police followed, then the arrival of investigators and the immediate cordon of the crime scene. The park, just a moment before vibrant with its usual life, had become a crime scene in an instant. The police launched an investigation that would stretch on for many years, like an endless labyrinth. The remains were fragmented, which, of course, complicated the identification of the victim and, more importantly, the murderer. Forensic experts poring over the evidence worked day and night trying to establish the victim's age, gender, and other details. They hoped to find even a single clue that could lead them to the criminal, but as often happens in such cases, they were destined to face a brick wall of bewilderment and despair. Inokashira Park itself was like a mirror reflecting life in Tokyo, a place where different people met, from young lovers tenderly holding hands to elderly people feeding ducks in a pond that was several hundred years old. It was a haven of peace and tranquility in the frantic rhythm of the metropolis, a place that many dreamed of. And now, this very park, breathing with life and joy, had become the site of a brutal crime. The grim discovery cast a shadow over the idyllic atmosphere, instilling fear in the hearts of the citizens, making them glance around with caution. In those days, Japan, much like today, remained a society that revered tradition and held conservative views. Shame and disgrace associated with a crime could compel people to remain silent, locking the truth deep within themselves. The victim, whoever they might be, was destined to share in this nightmare. For the police, each discovered fragment of the body presented a riddle, brimming with dark secrets. Every element could tell a story, but it had to be deciphered, pieced together. The investigation unfolded, gaining greater scope. The police meticulously combed the park, meter by meter, questioned witnesses, recording every word, and gathered evidence, hoping to find even the slightest clue. But time marched relentlessly on, and the answers, like an elusive shadow, became increasingly less attainable. The absence of any identifying marks, characteristic of the crime, made identifying the unfortunate victim incredibly difficult. There wasn't a single document, a single personal item, nothing that could hint at the identity of the deceased. Essentially, the investigators' primary piece of evidence was a dismembered body. Meticulous work began, as if artists were reconstructing a crime scene bit by bit. They tried to determine the approximate time of death, like putting together the shards of a broken mirror. The investigators meticulously examined everything, from the type of trash bin where the remains were found to the menu the suspect might have eaten on the day the body was discovered, but the criminal was incredibly cautious, as if anticipating their every move, as if playing a game of cat and mouse, aware of all their tricks. Witness testimonies were another barely perceptible thread in this tangled ball. However, as often happens, people saw and heard very little. One noticed a suspicious person, another a strange smell, and a third noticed nothing at all. All these fragmented testimonies had to be pieced together, like a puzzle, to get even a glimpse of what had happened. The Japanese police, known for their thoroughness and meticulousness, did everything possible, giving 100%. However, the circumstances of this case seemed intentionally designed to obscure the truth. The killer, it seemed, had meticulously planned every detail, as if playing a complex game, leaving behind only a negligible amount of evidence. Perhaps he possessed exceptional intellect and astonishing composure, or maybe he was simply incredibly fortunate. Or perhaps his motives were so personal, so deeply concealed, that deciphering them seemed utterly impossible. Time relentlessly marched forward. The crime was becoming cloaked in new, sometimes frightening details. The case remained open, and hope for its resolution dwindled with each passing day, like snow melting under the rays of the spring sun. Clues that once seemed promising keys to solving the mystery now only led to dead ends, concealing the truth behind a veil of speculation. Local newspapers and television channels relentlessly reminded everyone of the tragedy, fueling public interest, which thirsted to know the truth. Each new news broadcast, each article printed in the newspaper, served as a torturous reminder of the unsolved case, of the victim whose identity remained a mystery, shrouded in the shadows of the unknown. As the investigation stalled, public attention shifted towards Inokashira Park. It transformed into a place of tragedy, a symbol of fear and the unknown. People came here, their faces etched with worry. They glanced around as if sensing an unseen threat still lingering in the air. Spring, once associated with renewal and hope, now seemed a harbinger of dark secrets. Why this park? Perhaps the killer knew it like the back of his own hand, having frequented it often. Or maybe by choosing this location, he simply wanted to leave a message, to draw attention to his crime. We will never know for sure. The case of the dismembered body in Inokashira Park became not only a puzzle for the investigators, but also a reflection of deeper problems, hidden within the depths of society. It revealed how easily the truth could be concealed, and how difficult justice was to achieve. Sometimes it seemed almost impossible to unravel a mystery hidden behind a veil of silence and stillness. It forced us to deeply consider those who live alongside us, and how easily one could become a target in a vast city full of secrets. The investigation stretched on for many years, a dark shadow cast over the case. Investigators revisited old evidence time and time again, meticulously examining it, hoping to find a vanishing thread. They questioned new witnesses, peering into their faces in the hope of glimpsing the truth, but the case remained hopelessly unsolved. Throughout this lengthy investigation, the investigators encountered insurmountable obstacles. The absence of modern forensic methods, which we possess today, was one of the biggest challenges. In those years, DNA analysis and computer data processing were imperfect compared to what exists now. The investigators had to rely on time-tested methods, lengthy interrogations, thorough examinations of crime scenes, and painstaking collection of evidence. Another significant challenge was the weight of public opinion. In the conservative Japanese society of the time, where reputation held even greater importance than it does now, the victim of a crime could face condemnation. This was especially true for those who led secretive, mysterious lives. Investigators were acutely aware that any detail, however small, could become an obstacle to obtaining crucial information, vital for solving this monstrous case. Theories about the victim's identity multiplied, like shadows in the twilight. It wasn't impossible that the deceased had ties to the criminal underworld, a person whose past held numerous dark secrets. Alternatively, they might have been a random victim, caught in the wrong place at the worst possible moment. The police meticulously considered every possible scenario, discarding none. They painstakingly examined the smallest details, hoping to find even the faintest clue that could lead them to the killer. They desperately sought the thread that connected the victim and the perpetrator, trying to understand the motive behind this cruel act. During the investigation, peculiar and inexplicable details surfaced. For instance, the type of trash bin in which the remains were found raised many questions. It was different from the other bins installed in the park. This detail could prove to be a key clue. Perhaps the killer brought it with him to conceal the evidence of the crime, or perhaps the bin was taken from somewhere else. The investigators also paid close attention to the way the body was dismembered. The cuts were incredibly neat and professional, as if made by an experienced surgeon. This detail suggested that the killer might have had medical knowledge or experience working with bodies. Other oddities also emerged during the investigation. Several witnesses claimed to have seen a suspicious man in the park shortly before the remains were discovered. They described him as a middle-aged man, dressed in dark clothing, with a strange, vacant gaze. One witness even remembered a grey scarf. However, none of them could provide a more precise description, which hampered the investigation. The identity of the mysterious stranger remained unknown. Despite all efforts, after a year, the case remained unsolved. Investigators carefully examined every lead, but the killer remained elusive. The case gathered new details, like a ball of yarn, yet answers remained elusive. In the absence of any substantial evidence, attention focused on the smallest details that might reveal the victim's identity. It resembled a complex puzzle, where each tiny fragment could be crucial. Hope lingered that one of these pieces would eventually allow the reconstruction of the full picture. With each new year, the case of the dismembered body found in Inokashira Park became even more mysterious. The unknown fueled a myriad of rumors and speculations, spreading throughout the city like wildfire. Society demanded answers, but silence was the only reply. All that remained was to wait, secretly hoping that one day the truth would emerge, like the sun breaking through the veil of fog. Perhaps the killer was still nearby, lurking in the shadows, biding their time, living an ordinary life, meticulously concealing their secret. Or perhaps they had long since departed this world, carrying their secret into the damp earth. For many years, the case remained open, like a gaping wound, a constant reminder of the unsolved mystery. Investigators came and went. Newer, more advanced technologies emerged, but the solution remained elusive, slipping away like a phantom. The mystery, like a shadow from the past, loomed over everyone, a reminder of the cruelty and the secrets hidden within human nature. This story, like hundreds of other unsolved crime cases, made one ponder many things: the nature of evil, the fragility of human life, and how easily the traces of a crime can be erased. The truth hidden beneath a veil of lies. It shows that justice does not always prevail, that sometimes the truth remains buried under a thick layer of silence. The psychological portrait of the victim, forever unrevealed, is another mystery that stirs the imagination. We will never truly know who this person was, what he dreamed of at 20, 30, or 40 years old, what fears tormented his soul, what caused him pain and worry. We can only speculate about his life, about the fears that plagued his soul and the hopes he may have held. How might the victim's fate have unfolded if his identity had been revealed? Imagine his loved ones, tormented by the unknown, could finally find some comfort, knowing the truth about his death. Perhaps the person guilty of his demise would have been found and faced deserved punishment. But none of this happened. The case of the dismembered body found in Inokashira Park served as a chilling reminder that even in the most tranquil of settings, utter darkness can lurk. It's a tale of unbelievable cruelty, a carefully concealed secret, and a crime that remains unsolved. This is a story that will live in the memories of people for many years, making them wonder what hides beneath the facade of well-being. And now, after several decades, this case continues to be one of the most mysterious and tragic in the history of Japanese criminalistics. A case that never reached its conclusion, leaving behind only questions and the bitterness of irreplaceable loss. This case still stirs the imagination, forcing one to contemplate the nature of evil and how easily truth can be concealed under the cover of night. Why did the murderer remain in the shadows, never found? Perhaps he was exceedingly cautious, like a chess player, meticulously planning each of his moves 24 steps ahead. Or perhaps incredibly lucky, like a gambler favored by fortune, he managed to evade the attention of law enforcement, escaping justice. Or maybe he had powerful connections ready to lend a helping hand, leading him away from the punishment he deserved. We can only speculate, adrift in a sea of assumptions. But the fact remains, the killer went unpunished, and the victim never found peace, never received the justice she deserved. Public opinion split, much like a river dividing into two channels. Some expressed deep sympathy for the unfortunate victim, while others, conversely, condemned her, offering bold assumptions that she was somehow to blame for her own death, as if a fire had consumed her soul. But mostly, people were frightened, shocked by what had happened, as if the world around them had collapsed, shattering into thousands of fragments. The media went wild, fanning the flames of public interest. Newspapers were filled with new details. Television channels continuously broadcast reports from the crime scene, capturing more and more viewers in their nets. All this created an atmosphere of escalating tension, making people feel the precariousness of their own safety even more acutely. The case of the dismembered body found in Inokashira Park became not just a symbol of monstrous cruelty, but also an embodiment of the helplessness of law enforcement. Many, consumed by fear, doubted their professionalism, believing that the police had not made sufficient efforts to solve the crime. Accusations of negligence and inaction grew louder with each passing day. Yet, despite it all, the case remained unsolved. Today, after many years, it continues to serve as a grim reminder that even in the most advanced and civilized societies, terrible things can happen. It's a sinister reminder that evil exists, taking on diverse and sometimes the most hideous forms. After all this time, only questions remain. What happened to the victim? Who was the killer? And why did it happen this way? We will likely never get exhaustive answers to these questions, but this story will live on in people's memories for many years to come, reminding us that justice doesn't always prevail, and that sometimes the truth remains forever buried under a thick layer of lies and silence. This is like a dark corner in the history of Japan, a sinister reminder that even in the land of the rising sun, secrets can hide, destined never to see the light of day. It's a story without winners or losers, only tragedy and an endless mystery. And this mystery will haunt us like a shadow until we find answers, which perhaps we will never get. Imagine you are walking through Inokashira Park, breathing in the fresh air, admiring the beauty of nature, feeling a light breeze on your skin, and suddenly, memories of that story flooded back. Involuntarily looking around, I felt an intense, unseen gaze upon me. Questions swirled in my head. Who was the victim, and who was the killer? And what was the cause of this tragedy? A chill ran down my spine, freezing my blood. In that very moment, I realized that this story would never truly end. It would haunt my memory, a constant reminder that the world is full of mysteries and evil, and that sometimes the truth remains forever buried in the depths of the past. For me, and perhaps for many listeners, it remains utterly perplexing why this case was never solved. Were serious errors made in the investigation, leading to this outcome? Or was the killer so cunning and cautious that they skillfully evaded justice, leaving behind only a trail of speculation and suspicion? Perhaps it was a matter of tragic circumstances, a combination of factors that made solving this crime nearly impossible. Just imagine, long decades have passed, one generation has succeeded another, and the case still remains open, like a bleeding wound on the body of history. The uncertainty surrounding this crime, shrouded in a thick veil, gives rise to countless rumors and speculations, fueling curiosity and disturbing the minds of people. Some are convinced the killer is still alive, well, and perhaps even walking among us, hiding their true nature beneath a mask of normalcy. Others, conversely, believe he is dead, taking a terrible secret and all the answers to agonizing questions with him to the grave. And so, we have reached the very end of this story, which, like a dark river, carries us through the turbulent waters of cruelty, secrets, and unsolved crimes. A story that has forever etched itself into the annals of Japan, a story that makes hearts clench and minds search for answers, a story that exposes the fragility of human life like an autumn leaf in the wind, a story that plunges into the abyss of evil, where darkness devours light, a story that reminds us that justice does not always find its way to triumph, a story where the truth is sometimes buried under the weight of time and lies. But above all this, the most important question pierces the consciousness. Will this secret remain unsolved forever? Or perhaps one day, we will finally see the truth, like a ray of sunlight breaking through 1,000 clouds.